Okay.
I'm gonna turn this down so we don't get like bleed through.
I
'Cause
know.
that would
I'm
be
gonna get
terrible.
that. Dude, once it starts looping, it's insane. It's
I know,
insane.
dude. I hate it. Drives me
So we could be
nuts.
live right now. I'm waiting for it to pop up on the on the
I am
thing. You're waiting to?
Yeah. It's not on there yet. Hopefully soon. Oh. We got an ad going.
Great. Of course we have an ad.
Ad here.
Oh, I got an ad as well. Here we go.
Yay! Yay! Root Insurance Company. Let's do it. Hey, there you are.
All right, I see us. We're good. And
dude, I see the thing in the background too. You
nah, I don't think I did.
Done this.
Here you are. Oh my God, this looks atrocious. So, all right. So listen, we're doing something here. So, Josh, while we start here,
yes,
and I'm going to try to make the background look somewhat decent. Why don't you give everyone a little bit of background to what? Yeah, we're looking at the Malvern Manor all the time. People are always asking for information on like the background and history. You want to just give us like a quick rundown, and then we'll kind of get into specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, Malvern Manor itself used to be called the Cottage Hotel, and we know that construction began on this hotel back in the 1860s. We know by the late 1800s, it was in full swing as a hotel. We know it was also the fourth structure that was constructed in town, which is quite something. But we do know that primarily it was servicing the railroad, which was just a couple hundred yards out the front door. So people coming and going all the time, primarily for business and travel and all of that fun stuff. Now, we also know that it ran as a hotel all the way up until the 1950s. At that time, it kind of takes an odd turn and becomes what we would consider to be like a nursing home type setting. So that happened back in the 50s. The nursing home wing, which we have gone live from before, and I would like to do that more often, obviously. I need to get a couple more of those Wi-Fi extenders to reach down that far. I mean, the building itself is...
Yeah, the fact that you have actual Wi-Fi flowing through that building successfully is unbelievable. How long did that take?
That has been a nightmare. No, that's been a nightmare. That took like 6 months, my friend. Like, because before, it wasn't working. It wasn't working at all. And I constantly would have techs out there all the time, and they were like, no, everything's fine, everything should be working the way it should be working. We have no idea why it's not. It just wouldn't hold a signal at all. So that was a nightmare. Then I told him, I was like, well, I'm not going to pay for something if it's not going to work, right? Well, that kind of lit a fire under their butt, and they came out there and just rewired.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, think about it. Think about what, you know, you probably have a higher package. You would think they'd kind of get their shit together and help you guys out.
Right, exactly, man. So, I mean, thank God that we actually did, and they were able to help us out for sure. But, so that nursing home wing that I was talking about, that was put on in 1956. So for all intents and purposes, that little section is the newest section. So back there, you'll find like wider door frames, a lot of laminate type flooring, kind of suggesting a more medical atmosphere.
Cool.
Now, we know that the nursing home itself didn't last very long. In the 1970s, the state of Iowa came in and they said your hallways aren't wide enough to support transporting patients properly, right? So this is where, in the 70s, it becomes what I consider to be the group home. Now, the group home is servicing any type of mental disorder you could possibly imagine.
That's crazy to me that they just lump these people together.
Dude.
Like, imagine how horrifying it must be for some of those people.
Well, and that's just it. So, and I've heard a few horror stories or whatever, for lack of a better term, but like they would service anybody. Very run-of-the-mill type ailments that we see every day. So like people with Down syndrome,
Right.
very common type disease. People with drug and alcohol abuse, again, very common. All the way to the opposite side of the coin, and you have people with DID, or what used to be called multiple
Right.
personality, schizophrenics, murderers are housed here as well. This is a very odd
yeah, for sure,
right? Like, this is super weird. Now, we do know there was one gentleman who was he was an alcoholic. We do know that, but he lived directly across the hall from another gentleman who had murdered 3 others in the
that's
past.
crazy. And it's crazy
Now,
that they're like, oh, this is like, obviously the guy probably had mental illness, but
yeah, this is just
I don't know, that guy's got to be somewhere
Yeah.
special, you know what I mean?
I guarantee that gentleman with alcoholism probably didn't get much.
Yeah, I bet.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine? No way, man. So super interesting, like the clientele that's coexisting together, under the same roof. And like, by today's standards, this seems completely
Right.
unfeasible. But we do know that the building itself, I mean, this ran as a mental health facility all the way up then until 2005 is when it shut down, which is not that long ago.
Not at all. I didn't know it went that I didn't know it was that early.
Long ago. Super weird. Super weird. So yeah, very interesting stuff. I mean, the building, obviously, guys, we've done our best and we've exhausted so many different resources trying to really get a lockdown on this history, because it's very important to me that I'm not presenting people with crap. Like, it's like, I'm an investigator myself, and the last thing I want to do is just spew horse shit out of my mouth to try to sensationalize anything. That's the absolute last thing I want to do. And so, I mean, we've gone as far as, like, one of the first things I did was I invited some of the original nursing staff.
Get out of here.
House. Dude, it was insane. And I mean, no real agenda necessarily, other than just walk me down memory lane.
Think about the insight that they have. How what was like the latest that you had people working there? Were they like recent staff, or were there people there that like worked there for 30 years or whatever?
There were some that were there ever since like the 70s and 80s. So they had all the way up till closing, you know what I mean? So they had put in their fair share of time.
That is fascinating.
Sure. So now, another thing that we did was we ended up hiring a private detective. He did a 3-week-long investigation where I instructed him, to dig up as much history as possible. Whether it be good, bad, or otherwise, from there we would decide what's tactful to present to the public. Like, the main thing I don't want to do is step on toes, especially of the family members that are still very much in that area. That's why you'll hardly ever hear me say a last name.
Right. I was going to say, I bet there are families that are still hanging out.
I'm not going to do it. Very much so. And so I'm just not going to do that, So, I mean, but he did a very good job, in my opinion. He was able to help us kind of start to piece together the whole Ines story, the story with Ines Gibson and all of that, which, I mean, I know we go live from that room numerous times. It's very interesting. But yeah, like the feed that we have up now of the attic, that for me is pretty much the worst place for me. I hate the attic.
Now, it seems like you
broad daylight going up there, I absolutely
I feel like there are stories throughout the location, but there's no I haven't heard any real story that happens with the attic, and just from having it on, like, I feel like that place is ridiculous. And
it's it's interesting to me because we don't know what the purpose of the attic was. Now, if you look around the room, and I realize it's kind of hard to see, But I would suggest that this room had some form of purpose because of the fact that you have trim, you have baseboards, you have decorative moldings
That's so
on the
weird.
corners.
Why would they have
Things
that if
like
they weren't
that.
using it?
And you have exactly, and you have paint. Exactly. I mean, you have paint, you have vents, things of that nature. Um, so the room had some form of purpose. I would totally suggest that. Like even that chimney that it stands up in the middle of the room and it has
Yeah,
a blanket over it.
It's so weird, dude.
So yeah, like the only reason I have the blanket over the chimney is because in infrared light, the paint that's on that chimney uh, gives a pretty weird
Oh, it's
halo
like bouncing
type
around.
effect, and it was actually creating false positives, which is something that I want to avoid at all cost, right? Um, and so pretty interesting stuff. So I covered it up, but now that chimney was knocked down. You can see only half of it
Right.
still stands, right? But um, it was the cause of the fire
Get out
back
of
in the
here.
day. And so up in the rafters, and you can't really see it from this angle. From the other angle, you probably could see it a little better, but there's charred
Right.
remains
You can
still
see the
on
rafters. They're all jacked
their.
up, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's pretty interesting stuff, really. But up here, like, what's always fascinated me about the attic is the first time that I investigated there, I was hearing growling, and I was hearing like scratching, and I was hearing a disembodied voice telling me to F off, right? So me kind of being like more analytical, I guess, than anything, I thought it was probably an animal, like making the growling noises, making the
I
scratching
was going
type
to ask about
noises, right?
that because we had
So,
crazy shit captured on the streams, and just like every
yes.
thank you DeBlit. Someone just donated $19 or $20.
Oh, DeBlit,
Yeah,
thank
any
you so
donations
much.
go to what do you have, the boiler?
Guys, so what we are going to do with any money that we do make, it is going towards a new furnace. So we already have one furnace in the manor itself, um, and that it does a fairly decent job for a few rooms. Um, However, I want to make this more. So with the unit itself and the I guess it's called duct
Right.
work and all that stuff, we're going to run it through, and we're really going to heat up the entire first level, and then eventually we're going to get another furnace, and we're going to put it upstairs, and we're going to do the same type of thing. So I mean, we do year-round investigations, obviously, but now it'd be a little bit more
Yeah,
comfortable.
it's
For people
chilly in there for sure.
that can come in the dead of winter. It is, man. Yeah, I mean, you were here pretty much
Yeah.
exactly a year ago, and it was
Yeah, it gets
pretty
pretty cold.
frosty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you
got
so
another
much.
$5 from
I
Cheryl.
appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Cheryl.
I see that, Cheryl.
All
Thank
right,
you.
sorry, what were we talking about? We got all excited
So
here.
great.
Oh, the animals. So,
Oh yeah. So I thought it was an animal, right? Because it's an
right,
old
we had a lot of people who saw the
Um,
video. They, they jumped on like,
Yeah.
it's a raccoon or whatever.
Dude,
And
yeah,
hearing it from you,
exactly.
I trust you to be like, I don't
Yeah.
think that's what it is. I went to a dog fight, but it was weird because the same similar sounds happened like throughout the night. So, yeah, tell me about these growls. Like, what made it stand out to where you didn't think it was an animal?
So that's what's interesting. So back here, guys, what you can't really see, and there's a little inlet or whatever, but towards the back of the room where you see that black pipe kind of going straight up and down, to the left and to the right of that, you have crawl spaces. Now that's about the only place that I can fit through to get back into the walls themselves to really investigate further to see what's going on. So now, personally, I've been back there 8 separate times now, specifically looking for carcass or droppings or anything suggesting that something is or
Right.
was alive. Now, the only things that I have found back there, guys, the only things that I have found back there are very personal type items. So we found a tobacco pouch, crushed
Oh,
up
how old were those?
playing cards, even keys, man, like keys. And these keys are like old and brittle and like super cool to look
That's
at.
amazing.
But nothing it is so cool, but nothing suggesting an animal, which is interesting to me. So now here's another interesting tidbit that I've noticed. So people that are investigating upstairs here in the attic, they're usually good for about 20 to 30 minutes before they start to feel physically ill. The second you walk up in that attic, you'll probably start to feel like a tightness in your chest, which is something that I experience. But then after about 20 to 30 minutes, that will move to more of like a nauseous type feeling in your stomach. It's a very unwelcoming part of the house. And I mean, it's very interesting to me because the second you get down the steps,
Start feeling better.
you feel better. You just feel great. Yeah, it's so weird to me. And I realize, like, I sound like a crazy person.
Oh, I think we all do.
Saying these things, and I really do. But yeah, right. So, yeah, it's weird.
And
man.
yeah, you know, like,
excuse me,
something to make that noise. I would assume a raccoon. You know, my wife had an old. In her backyard, it was like the garage, and there was like a crawl space above the garage where they used to hang out as kids. So she took me up there a couple of years ago, and it's like it's like, you know, time travel kind of. But a raccoon had been up there, and raccoons take like adult male shits. So for you to find nothing, you would definitely know that they're up there.
Right.
And they're destructive, man. They're crazy. They'd be like messing around and coming out and messing with all this stuff. So that's pretty interesting.
Right. And that was one thing that I really wanted to get to the bottom of. Now, crawling back in there sucks.
Yeah, I bet. I'd freak out. I don't do well with that.
No. Absolutely not. Terrible at that stuff. But, you know, it is what it is. Anything to get the answers, I guess. So now, one thing that I did do, like, for this feed when I was setting it up, like this afternoon, because when you watch that video, you know, when you put together those 3 clips, you know, like, it's all audio and it sounds so fantastical. I mean, it sounds like the place is getting ripped
wild,
apart,
man.
You know,
you could hear like metallic things.
One of those noises, yes, and I know for a fact, like, the initial, like, on clip 1 of that, it sounds like a very large rumble type thing. I know for a damn fact what that sound is, and that is the actual door to the basement, just at the base of the steps, and it's the jarring
Get out of
of
here.
the door, which is ridiculous. So another thing that people don't realize sometimes, I guess, is this feed, whenever we're going live from the attic, nobody is in the building because the Wi-Fi doesn't reach that far, and so I have to hardwire it. And so there's 150 feet of cable running from the office downstairs all the way up strategically to the
that sounds terrible.
To make this, it sucks, but it is what it is. Like, it's totally worth it, especially when we capture the stuff that we do. So it's fascinating to me because I know I'm the only guy with the key, and I know nobody else is in the building, especially when we're live from the attic. Like, I know.
Yeah, I mean, people clamor for the attic. That's for sure. I get messages like a bunch of times a week. It's probably one of our most popular places.
But I wanted to put objects in there that are more physical in nature. Now, obviously, I put the Boo Buddy in there, which is more audio, but it does have the light up paws and stomach and things. I put a ball right next to the Boo Buddy. I also put some dominoes and stood them up. And then there's a little white ball that's off there on the right hand side of the screen, and that's actually motion activated light. So if something were to move, like definitively move, that puppy will absolutely light up.
Cool.
So I'm hoping.
I know. Well, you know, I'm going to have these up for a couple of days. I'm going to try to give people the options to pick between 2 different cameras. The fact that this is happening without a hitch is a miracle. So we're going to see what happens. But it'll be cool. People will be able to jump back and forth. All right, last question about the attic. My last thing, because I was just so blown away by the intensity of all that sound. What's it like hearing things from the outside?
It's terrifying. So, a few different times I've had the feed going, and I'm sitting in the office downstairs and just watching it on the computer, right? And I'm hearing these things. I'm like, what the heck's going on, right? So I try to boot scoot up there and see, but I'm always like super quiet walking up the steps and like baby stepping down the hallway, because you can hear every footstep approaching that, you know? I'm trying to be as quiet as possible, but man, you hear things that are going on up there. Like sometimes it sounds like chairs being drug. Sometimes it sounds like, again, like the place is being ripped apart, and nothing is ever out of place, which is, it doesn't make sense to my analytical brain at all, that something would have to be out of place, but nothing ever is. So
I mean, it's amazing, dude. It's cool that the fact that you get to spend time in there on a regular basis is fascinating. Do you feel like, and I feel like, of course, the answer is going to be yes, but like, do you feel like you've changed in any way since spending time in there, like both positively and negatively?
Yeah, I think it's opened my eyes up a little more, like to the point where I guess I've become more personable with them specifically. Like you should hear me when I'm there by myself. Like I'm such a dork. Like I'm talking.
What's up, everybody? Coming on in.
I'm walking up and down the hall. And like, yes, and I always say good morning, you know, and things like that. And I come in and I'm like, guys, it's just me. I'm gonna vacuum the floors really quick. I'll be out of your hair in 5 minutes. And usually I've got the earbuds in, and it's like head down.
Right.
Do what you got to do.
Oh, you don't even like to mess around.
My God, man. Like, no. Like,
interesting.
Sometimes I'll hear things, and like over the past week, we've been hearing very odd things, man. And again, I'm gonna sound like I'm cock crazy here, but upstairs. If you're sitting downstairs in like our little sitting room area or whatever, you can definitely hear what's going on up above you. And it's obviously the little pitter patter of feet, you know, running up and down the halls, which we always attribute to Ines. But then it's been singing. There's been singing as well. And it's always been the same tune, which is My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. That thing. It's definitely terrifying. Like, it's enough to send me out the back door for a smoke break. You know what I mean? It's like, take myself out of the equation. It's like, it's so weird, but again, like, it feels like the building is constantly changing and constantly morphing. There was a group last night that got a very interesting EVP that said, hello. And they said, hey, what's your name?
Get the fuck out.
A name. And they said, oh, but then he said, how long have you been here? He says, I just moved in 3 months ago. I'm like,
and it's
what?
It's like, is it like our time, or is it their perspective?
That's what I want. See, that's what I want to know. It's like, when you die, is there really a concept of time?
I don't know. We, my buddies and I, this is stupid. I'm going to totally derail the conversation. My buddies and I created a song back in the day called Do People Wear Clothes in Heaven? And the end of the song is,
I like it.
I bet there's a lot of people in heaven wearing hospital gowns. But it's stupid.
Oh, yeah.
But like, what's your perspective? Like, is it your choice? Or is it...
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Dude, it's so weird. That whole thing, like, I go back and forth on whether it's like imprinted, like, lapses of time, or if it's an actual consciousness. Right. And you get evidence of both of those all the time. But in your instance, it seems like it's almost as if these things are just chilling and they exist there, which is like, not a comforting thought. To think,
But at this, yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, dang. I'm like, what is it about the place? It's almost like sending out a beacon then, right? And it's almost like, hey, this is where the ghosts are chilling. Come on and join
right,
us or whatever. Chill for a week or 5, whatever you want
right,
to
and
do.
like, are you and the people going with intent to go there? Like, is that bringing them there for attention? Who knows?
See, and that's another thing that I've always thought about, right? Is what is it just about like group
Sure.
dynamic in general that could be potentially fostering some of this activity or eliciting some of this activity? Like we've had groups in there have some of the most profound experiences, and we've had other groups that don't
Right.
experience
Well,
shit
that's how it goes, man. You know, I
when
tell
they're
people
there.
like it could be the most boring
It
night of your
is
life. You know, because
right,
you get tired after a
right,
while. You're like poop, but it's not it's not a definite experience at all.
right, right. So it's pretty interesting stuff, and I mean, God, dude, I don't know if we're ever gonna get an answer, but I'd like to think that we'll get a little closer eventually, but
Dude,
yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know either. I
I
mean,
don't know. It's gonna
I
happen.
guess the fact that there's a spotlight on it now is good. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I can go
right.
either way on
Yeah, I
that.
feel you.
You know, it's
All
it is what
right,
it
I got a
is.
question from the
It's
crew
cool
here.
though.
Deblet asks, "Does Josh think there's a portal there?"
See, and I've entertained that thought numerous times. Um, for example, like with the case of Ines
Right.
Gibson, right? So we know it was December 27th of 1900. She was 12 years old, and she was found by her 8-year-old brother hanging in the closet by her
Right.
jump rope.
Horrible.
She's hanging there. Terrible. So what I can 100% definitively say, though, is Ines Gibson never died on property, ever. She died a block away from our property. Um, so why would she, one of the most active spirits that we can claim, why is it that she's there?
That is bizarre.
Um,
Like, why wouldn't she be chilling at
no,
home?
like, is it right? Exactly. So I do know that in 1900, like the building itself was kind of like the place to be in
Sure.
that area. Um, Again, a lot of people coming and going all the time. But it was a huge building. It was gorgeous, the whole 9 yards. So maybe she was just
Yeah,
attracted to the
maybe.
building. Possible, right? Other people have suggested, well, maybe it's something else that makes you want to think you're addressing a 12-year-old girl. Maybe something not with the best of intentions. I don't want to necessarily throw out the D word, but that's what they're implying. But nothing malicious has ever happened to really
Right.
suggest
Yeah,
that.
it seems like
So again, now we're left with the biggest unsolved mystery that we have at the manor is her.
yeah,
Why
it's
the
so
hell is
weird.
she
And she's like a
there?
child. Why would she, if she had the choice, why would she go there?
Yeah,
It's bizarre, dude. It's so
right,
weird. The whole thing is so,
right.
it's so, I don't know. It sends you in loops. You feel like you figure something out and it
Yeah,
just
for
keeps
sure,
going.
man.
Um,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I'm going to change gears.
Okay.
What's the most, you don't have to say names, obviously. What's the most ridiculous thing anyone's ever done in the Malvern Manor?
We, man, a lot of people now lately have been doing a lot of like the isolation and sensory deprivation type experiments. The same type of things that we wheeled out in A Brush with
Right.
Evil Part 2, where you set yourself alone and you take away some of your senses or all of your senses or as many as you possibly can. Um, there have been a lot of people that have been getting very interesting results with that. Specifically, when you take away like your sense of sight, and you're sitting in a chair or what have you, and then you're asking um, the spirits to do something to that person's body. Um, yeah, it's very weird. It's very, very weird. So like whoever's sitting in the chair would wear like noise canceling headphones that may be blasting
Yep.
white noise in their ears,
Yeah.
so they can't hear anything.
We got to do that a year ago, and I did it, and it was
exactly.
it's a chilling feeling, man. You feel very vulnerable.
Yeah. Right, dude. Yes, exactly. It's a perfect way to. And I always say, like, you know, everybody's got their own little comfort zone and
Sure.
threshold, right, of fear. And I think that, you know, the hard answers that we're looking for are just on the opposite side of that, you know, just beyond that threshold. So I'm all about pushing yourself a little bit farther, and maybe staying an extra 5 minutes in this room that's terrifying you or whatever. But yeah, you know, one of the things that I did was, you know, concerning like the Shadow Man. It's interesting to me because what seems to be happening is very residual in nature, and
Right.
that's my opinion. But he'll come out of the room, he'll turn, and then he'll chase people down. Now, nobody is getting hit or scratched or punched or any of that crap. And quite literally, the second you flinch or turn away, the phenomenon's past. It's
Weird.
done and over with. You just have something very large coming at you insanely fast, almost so fast you can't even fathom what's really happening. Now, I've experienced that for myself 3 separate times. Right now, this past time, I stood back in the hallway, and it's completely pitch black back there. I mean, Mike,
yeah.
You've been back there, but it gets super dark back there. Now, I stood there in one spot, for 3 solid hours, begging for this to happen, and it finally did. And I did not run this time. However, like, I still
How could you not?
I guess.
How can you not?
Just human instinct, I guess. But yeah, I wanted to see what happens when we don't react, we don't flinch, we don't run. So now I'm kind of kicking myself, right? Because I have to find the testicular fortitude to do this again.
Yeah, I sat in that hallway for like a good hour by myself, and yet it's just like you're just waiting for someone to just like crank at you full speed. It's a horrifying feeling.
Yeah. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the way that you talked about fear. I was actually talking to a group who is doing this study on the type of like sound wave or like vibrations that are, I'm butchering this, but like a type of vibration that's released when an EVP is captured. And this wave of energy that is released, they've done actual studies where if you put a person in a room with this, it will induce the feeling of fear. So you always have, I know, because you always have fear going back forever associated with these paranormal events. And what if they're just generating at that frequency, making you afraid? Isn't that crazy? I can't wait until I've been pushing to hear more from them, but I think they're waiting to like get more of a solid evidence with it. But I was like, that is bonkers.
I've got so many.
I know, man. I know.
Holy crap.
So it's like maybe we're just afraid because physiologically we have no other choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it speaks to that like primal carnal instinct inside of us all. Like you have no choice but to
right. And I mean, you have people from every country in the world talking about describing a spirit, and it's always a scary situation. It is really cool.
Dude, my mind's.
I know, bro. I know. I'll talk to you more about it because I don't want to tell. I don't want to say who it is. Because I don't know if they. You know how things are, but I'll fill you in.
Yeah.
But it's funny when I asked the question about like crazy things that have happened in Malvern Manor. You went a very wholesome route. Like, have you ever had people be ridiculous?
We have had people be pretty freaking ridiculous. So we did have we did have one guy in there. He got completely blitzed,
Nice.
stoned off his ass, ran up and down the hallways, screaming, 666 and come and get me, Satan, and all this stuff. Like, I mean, just like weird,
Right,
weird
doing it the right way.
Okay, and he did this for like apparently, like, why not? He did it for like an hour solid, apparently. Yeah, and then he gets scared.
All right.
And he leaves. He takes off. Interestingly enough, the dumbass gets in a car crash.
Get out of here!
On his way home or whatever.
Oy vey.
Stupid, but I mean, I chalk that up to the marijuana, right? But it is what it is. So I had to go back to the building that night, and lock up, right? Because
just bounced.
Just left.
How did you know that this all happened? Well, I guess the car crash, maybe.
No, I got a phone call from other people that were with him that were trying to get him to just knock his stupid shit off. Yeah, they were not
I bet
with him at all. Yeah, so they all just bounced, and yeah, whatever. So I had to go back and I had to lock up. But I will say this: walking into that house that night was absolutely ridiculous. It felt jacked in that place. It was almost like you walk into a bar and you've got 5 of the biggest, burliest dudes staring you down like they're gonna kick you.
Yeah, when you're not welcome.
Right, exactly. And so I locked up as quick as I possibly could, dude. And I
see ya.
The hell out real quick. I mean, it was 11:30 at night, so God, it was terrible. But there have been other people that have done equally ridiculous things, usually involving alcohol, again, marijuana, whatever. And I'm not knocking it. Do what you're going to do. But at the same time, different strokes for different folks.
Right. Yeah, it's probably, you're in, at very least, you're in someone else's establishment. Don't act a fool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, we got another. Bonnie, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie. Very nice.
Yeah, we're making a small chip at the furnace tonight.
Oh, did I lose you, Pump?
You back? Hey.
There you are.
All right, let's get you want to do 2 more questions?
Thank you guys so much.
And then we'll roll out.
Man. Absolutely.
Oh my God! I mean, what about you? What's going on with you, dude? Fill us in. What's new? Are you allowed to talk about any future projects?
Yeah, it's I'm in full edit mode right now of coming out.
Let's go.
March. Yeah, this is the last.
Yeah.
And kind of speaking to what we were doing before, with the whole group dynamic thing, right? So I took our group of guys and I threw in a couple new people, but familiar faces. You guys will definitely recognize them. But I split the team in half, and half stayed at Malvern Manor, and the other half went to the Sally House in Atchison, Kansas, which is 150 miles away from the manor, with the sole purpose of trying to elicit a response at the other location. It was the coolest experience.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing, some of the things that we captured on film. So I cannot wait to show this to everybody. But that'll be coming out in March. Again, it'll be VidiSpace exclusive. So that'll be the only place to really find it.
Yeah, man, I like the way that you put the films together, and I feel like you've really developed as just a filmmaker with your crew. So it's been getting better and better every time.
Dude, thank you.
Yo, it's hard work, man.
Thank you.
Shit's hard. Shit's hard.
Sucks. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I'm new to the whole family thing, and just finding time for anything is insane.
Dude, I know. And we just, yeah, I mean, that's, we just
Oh,
had a
yeah.
baby 2 weeks ago, basically.
We're supposed to clap, right?
Man.
Yeah.
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 Do a little clap. So, like, yeah, you and me are kind of probably on the same type of schedule right now.
Yeah, it's
you know what
the
I mean?
the schedule of
Like,
don't sleep and fit in whatever you can.
don't.
Yep.
Exactly.
And then feel a little guilty when you do. So.
Yeah, just a
Yeah,
little
it's good.
bit, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, man. I'm excited for the new movie, and
yeah. I got my buddy Dave Glidden. He's working on Into the Light Part 2, which I was
yeah, man, it's
part of
crazy
as well.
that first one you actually caught the anomaly, and it's
caught it on camera. Absolutely amazing. And that was when we were in the Brown Mountains in North Carolina, and obviously we wanted to go back to North Carolina, but Mother Nature had other plans with like a hurricane, so we opted out of that because I didn't feel like getting stranded on top of a mountain.
Yeah, you don't want
in the middle
that.
of a hurricane.
Nah.
I figure I could do other things for myself. But we did go to this other location. And like some of the things that we captured there, like we're after a light, we're looking after or searching for a spook light, and what we ended up capturing, like I'm still having a hard time processing.
For the second one?
Oh,
no way!
Correct. And this was in.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything, but you did give me a little insight, and that is exciting. You guys will just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and that's coming out. That'll probably be out before.
Yeah, I know David's been cranking on that thing.
Oh, dude, yeah, he's going nuts. Like I don't understand where he gets the energy, honestly.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I mean those light anomalies. It's crazy that it's like, yo, those are real, like straight up.
Yeah.
What do people think? It's like a geological thing.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking, and that's just it. Like, there's so many different camps of people, right? So they're like, oh, yeah, it's something natural. There was one that we did out, it was close to Des Moines, Iowa, and people haven't seen it really in 50 years, 60 years, something like that. Well, that kind of makes sense, because if it is something natural, something that, I don't know, like the earth is absolutely producing its own, like then the farming practices around here have disturbed that entirely, and it's probably
I heard something of like quartz in the ground becoming like super compressed because of tectonics, like the movement of the earth, and that would take like it could take thousands of years really for that pressure to build up. So who knows? But I mean, what are you leaning towards? Do you think it's more geological, or do you think it's paranormal?
See, and I think I could go either way still. In that case, like in Des Moines, I would absolutely say, yeah, it was probably more geological in nature. But then, like, out of the Brown Mountains, for example, we have people that were witnessing this, and it was coming directly at them, and then it would stop, and it would go around them, and then continue on the path that it was on before, after it got past and around them. Almost suggesting then some form of intelligence, right? So... Dude, I don't know, man. It was jacked up. Now, nobody has said anything like, oh, it was so terrifying when I saw this. Nobody's ever said that. They were just like...
Yeah, like, what is that?
Like, what the hell is in front of me? Right, exactly. So, yeah.
Interesting, weird, dude. All right, dude. Let's wrap this up, I guess. You could go back to your family and hang. Thank you for doing this. Let's do this again maybe one time.
Yeah.
Share some more Malvern stories. All right.
Yeah. I could talk for months, man.
Good. Let's do it. Thank you guys for watching. We're gonna do more of these hopefully. And
yeah, thank you guys for watching, and thank you for donating and all.
Yeah, pretty awesome. You know, furnaces are expensive, but it's one step forward for sure.
For damn sure. Thank you guys.
All right, man. You ready to roll? All right.
Yeah.
See you, everybody.
Absolutely.